I'm Craig Oldham. I'm a graphic designer based in Manchester. I run my own practice, Office of Craig. I'm also a writer, a lecturer, and I am creative director of Rough Trade Books. I'm not sure what the first piece of design is that I would have seen. I definitely remember like the first time I was aware of seeing something that I would now call design, which was probably when I used to get dragged around Barnsley Market every Saturday morning, and I'd see all these fluorescent, hand-drawn kind of signs telling you the prices of things or the offers of things. Free for this, free for a pound, whatever it was, on a fish stall or a fruit and veg stall, or someone selling knockoff Adidas tracksuits out the back of his van, whatever it was. I always remember being kind of visually assaulted by all this fluorescent stuff, and it's kind of come through now because I'm always drawn to those bright, brash colours and a sort of a directness of being able to tell people about what it is you're trying to do or what you're trying to communicate. There's always a bluntness in tone, but almost rendered in a lovely kind of way. And that is kind of extrapolating what I saw in Barnsley Market, but I do remember that really visually and really vividly as a child. I also remember things like the first ever like game I got for the Sega Mega Drive, like Sonic the Hedgehog. And I remember my brother having the Prince Batman album, and I remember holding that for ages just because it was just this huge Batman symbol. And I remember studying it and drawing it and copying it and messing around with it and things like that. So I guess they're the sort of things the triggers that go off in my mind when I think about that. What I'm working on at the moment, rich and varied diet. I think we set up the studios to not do the same kinds of job all the time. When I worked in agencies, it felt like there was a lot of kind of that going on. Like you do endless branding projects or endless this, that, and the other. So I always wanted to keep it diversified. And I've been really fortunate that that's allowed to happen. So to give you an idea, I mean, we're designing the next wave of the Rough Trade Books editions, which are a series of pamphlets from counterculture, working with a real good mix of artists, writers, poets, you name it. That's a really exciting project that we've got going on. I'm also writing a book for Rough Trade on the visual kind of culture and impact of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which is part of a series of books. I did one on John Carpenter's film They Live last year, so this is the second in that kind of set of editions. So I'm writing that. We're also designing the exhibition for Grayson Perry's Art Club, which is going on in Manchester, which is essentially the TV program that he did where people made their own art. Um, he is now exhibiting all that, and we're doing the exhibition design for that as well as the book. And we're doing some various other projects which are branding related, which are digital, and which are working directly with people who are at university but are care experienced people, or have experienced the care system in some way, and they're working directly on the sort of rebrand of a project with us. So it's a real mix, and no day is the same. So that's really what I always wanted. Really, I didn't want to sort of know what I was going to be getting up to, and I feel really, really lucky and privileged and fortunate that that is how we rolled. And in terms of advice, I'll probably repeat the words that I was given in terms of advice, which is, if you can think, we can teach you everything else. And what I kind of mean by that really is it can be it can overwhelm you, like what other people can do with various versions of software. Particularly now we're living in a so-called digital age, and you'll see some of your peers, creating this work that does all this and all that digitally, and you might think, wow, I'm not going to be a good enough designer because I can't do that. I don't have the technical skills, or I can't work InDesign as well as I can work Illustrator, or whatever it is. And actually, that's the wrong kind of, for me, the wrong, your focus laser beam of attention should be on how to think. It should be about solving problems. It should be about finding different ways to communicate to people, to communicate to audiences, to communicate to communities. And you should focus on how your work sits and works within the real world, and then worry about how to make it, do it, build it, designing. You know, for me, design is an intellectual discipline. So if you can think, if you can look at a problem and analyze it and unpick it and challenge it and be creative with it and all that stuff that happens in your head and through talking about it to other people and sharing it and then thinking about it some more, how you make it, you can be taught that. So you don't have to emerge out of university with all of these, you know, with a doctorate in Photoshop or whatever. All of that stuff will come later. People want to work with people who are inspiring, who are engaging, who are interested in what it is they're going to do and how design thinking can solve things. And then they'll all work together to make them. So for me, concentrate on thinking, concentrating on your problem solving and not the making and doing and how good you are at software.